Welcome to Mixed Effects. I'm Sonny Griffith. In the next half hour, you'll see a dance that originated in the days of the Arabian Nights. We'll show you some practitioners of the lost art of stained glass, along with some 20th century technology. But first, we'll tell you where some families stay when a child is in the hospital. Mixed Effects is next.
Hey, wow.
Welcome to Mixed Effects. Our first guest today is Miss Debbie Chandler, who is the Director of Community Relations for McDonald's of Memphis, and we're going to be talking about the work that you're doing to bring a Ronald McDonald House to Memphis, primarily for St. Jude. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
All right. How long has, well, first tell us about Ronald McDonald House. What does it do?
Okay, Ronald McDonald House is a home away from home for families of children with catastrophic illnesses. They can stay in the home for little or no fee for as long as they need to stay. Some just a few days, some for, a year or two, as long as their child is being treated by an area hospital. And it's actually for those families that are from out of the city that need someplace to stay when they come in town.
All right, and Memphis hasn't had one before. How many Ronald McDonald Houses are there across the country?
There's over 100 in the United States, Canada, and Europe. I'm not sure exactly what number this one will be, but there's more and more being added every year.
And what kind of work is having to go into bringing the first Ronald McDonald House?
A lot of fundraising. A lot of organizations have gotten together and raised money. I know there's a sorority here on the Memphis State campus that does a golf tournament every year with their alumni, and they raised a lot of money last year. There's Federal Express Pilot Wives have raised money for us. We every year hold a hamburger day where we sell our hamburgers for 39 cents all day for a certain number of hours, which we just finished last Saturday, and we did them from 11 to 4, and we raised almost $70,000 for that.
Now, the one that's going to be in Memphis, when will it probably open?
Well, we have to continue fundraising. We have to have at least half of the money raised before we can break ground. Right now, the planned site is at 905 Union, just behind the McDonald's there, across from Baptist Hospital. But there's always other options open that might be a better site closer to the Children's Hospital, or more land, or so we can expand if we need to expand. So they are looking at those options. So right now we don't have a definite date. We'd like to break ground as soon as possible, but we want to look at all our options to make sure we have the best possible site.
Now, you mentioned that the families that stay usually stay for little or no fee. What is the process that goes into deciding whether someone can or cannot pay, and how much?
There's a group of people at the hospital that will determine what families will be staying at the house. Thank goodness we don't have to do any of that. We don't have to pick and choose. The group of people at the hospital will determine that. And it's not just for those families that can't afford it. It's for any family, no matter what the income. The only reason we say for little or nothing is that if they can't afford it, if they don't have the money to come in from out of town, they can still stay there. Some of the fees are like from $5 to $15 a night. So it just depends on the family and their income and what their needs are.
Now, when a family stays, is it primarily a housing situation, or are there any other support services that go on through the Ronald McDonald House?
Through the hospital, I'm sure there are. In the Ronald House, there's a community kitchen where everybody can go down and fix their own meals. There's a family room, and then there's also private rooms, and then their own private bedrooms and things like that, so that if they want to be by themselves, they can be by themselves. But if they want to be around other families and talk and get emotional support and you know, feel how other families are dealing with the situation that they're in, they can do that, which is one of the main reasons for Ronald McDonald House is the emotional support that they get from other families that are going through the same crisis that they're going through.
Now, is the house itself set up like a regular house where a family would stay in their own room, or is it similar to a hotel? How is the setup?
The rooms themselves are similar to hotels, but then again, they have a community kitchen area and a community family room and that sort of thing, kind of like a lodge, I guess, where you have, you know, the big community area, but then you go back and you have separate rooms.
Approximately how many families can stay in a house at one time?
Our house is going to be one of the largest ones. We're going to have over 20 families that'll be able to stay. Most homes are only about 10 or 12 families can stay, but since we have so many people coming in town for St. Jude, we decided to make it as large as we can, so it'll be well over 20 rooms.
And then again, it's possible that even having it so large that the demand could necessitate another one.
Oh, sure. Sure. Well, that's why we want to have room for expansion. If we do need to add rooms, we can.
How much coordination has to go on between the hospital and the staff at the house to work everyone in?
I'm sure they're in constant communication. I have not actually had a hands-on experience with being at a house and talking with the hospital, but I'm sure they're in constant communication because a family's coming and going so often. There is somebody that lives at the house that monitors the cleaning and all that sort of thing. So they're going to be in constant communication with the hospital as to who's leaving when and, you know, who's coming in when and that sort of thing.
All right, what kind of staffing is necessary for the house if there are people that are interested in working with these kind of families? What kind of positions are there going to be for staff at the Ronald McDonald House?
Right now there are, if you make a $10 donation to the Ronald McDonald House, you can become a member of any of the committees, planning, decorating, any of the organizational committees, and all you have to do is after you make your $10 donation, show the interest to do that, and they'll put you on one of the committees. And then I'm sure that there will be people that want to visit the house, visit the families, see what they can do for the families and that sort of thing. And then again, there's always that one in-house mother or family, or I'm not sure exactly what they're called, to stay on the premises and take care of the basic needs of the house.
Are there any special problems that you've heard about in dealing with other McDonald's personnel working with other Ronald McDonald houses that are probably going to come up that you wouldn't normally think of?
I don't think so. We have really been in touch with a lot of houses across the United States. A lot of the board members have visited a lot of houses and talked with other hospitals and everything to make sure that they've worked out, you know, all the little things that could possibly come up. I'm sure there's always going to be some things that haven't been thought of, but they have visited several houses from across the country to make sure that they're covering all the needs that needed to be covered.
All right, if people want to make a contribution or make not necessarily obviously you need financial contributions,
right,
but other contributions as well, who do they need to contact?
They need to contact the Ronald McDonald House office, and the number is 763-0550, and they can do that anytime. And just if there's nobody there, just leave your name and number on the recorder, and somebody will definitely get back with you as soon as possible.
All right, I want to thank you very much, Debbie Chandler, the Community Relations Director for McDonald's, working very diligently to bring a Ronald McDonald House to the Memphis area. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. I was happy to be here.
And stay tuned for more Mixed Effects. Dan Oppenheimer founded Rainbow Studios to make stained glass windows. Now, 16 years later, Rainbow Studios has progressed from making stained glass windows with age-old methods to incorporating computer-aided design and robotics to manufacture etched glass and architectural signage. Now let's go to Rainbow to see exactly how these processes work and to view some of the artwork.
Rainbow Studio is a general decorative arts fabricating firm. I founded it in 1975 with a beginning in stained glass, and of course we're still most well known in this city for our stained glass work. but it's actually now only 25 or 30% of the product that the studio fabricates. We have 20 full-time craftsmen here producing everything from architectural signing to etched elevator doors for the elevator industry. Back in 1978-79, myself, along with a couple of my co-workers, developed a photographic sandblast etching process that was first used on a large-scale basis to etch the 58,000 names in the Vietnam War Memorial. That introduced us to industrial or institutional work on a much larger scale. Dover Elevator specifically contacted us and asked us to adapt this process to metals to utilize in decorative etching of metals for elevator entrances, custom type styles, custom door etched designs, and to this day we're the prime contractor in America to the elevator industry for etched metal products for the elevator industry. Some years ago that led us into the realization that, that architectural signing, specifically office building high-end interior signing, was a large untapped market that could well utilize some of the processes that we've developed over the years. Today we are the prime supplier in Memphis for all high-end architectural signing with international paper, international place, the Oak Court office development, and many others. It's become a mainstay of the company. And we're always looking for new products to develop. Most recently we've begun to develop a line of manufactured, believe it or not, paperweights. Utilizing, again, the same etching process. We had a company contact us from Knoxville and ask us to produce 5,000 paperweights to give to physicians around the country. And that led us into, again, another area. So from stained glass to architectural sign to elevator doors to custom light fixtures to all sorts of specialty architectural products. That's what the company actually does. We've, in the last couple of years, we've made a tremendous investment in computer technology for not only the normal accounting and general office tasks, but especially for fabricating our graphics products and specialty products. We have 3 major computer systems here, each one designed to do a different thing. One, for example, is, as I mentioned earlier, a robotic knife on a plotter that cuts a sandblast resist. We actually work the graphics out on the screen. We have a digitizing board, so we're able to digitize custom logos, and all of it is translated to this to the language that drives this plotter that cuts vinyl. It has what is known as a tangential knife that actually follows the direction of the plot, allowing us to cut out really, frankly, very thick rubber mat. In addition, we also use a computer here that is, in effect, a computerized milling, high-speed milling table. But it's all controlled by the computer center up in the graphics layout department, where, again, we can digitize a logo or a custom type style and send the message back to this milling machine, which will cut out of up to 2-inch thick brass of 2-foot by 4-foot image. It's really quite a sophisticated piece of equipment. We literally went from 1910 technology in terms of an old bandsaw to the year 2000 when we installed this particular piece of equipment. Again, we have a number of other little computerized pieces of equipment here that further aid us in other areas. Stained glass is still a very much 2,000-year-old or 1,000-year-old technology. There's very little that's changed in stained glass fabricating in the last 1,000 years. Now, granted, we do use as many of the high-tech tricks as we can, but we still rely very much on the hands-on old traditional methods. As we'll see in the back in a minute, where we cut glass using the age-old steel wheel cutters and lead came as they used, again, up to over 1,000 years ago. So it's all still very much a traditional craft. This is an unusual place in that we marry absolute state-of-the-art technology with ancient handcraft skills. It's real interesting from that standpoint to find the balance between high-tech and hands-on craftsmanship. This piece represents the highest form of the glass etcher's art. This is a heavily carved bas-relief piece of sculpted glass that's accomplished through the traditional hand technique that has been around for so many years. Here what we do is, as I described before, cover the glass in a piece of rubberized mask, cut the design with an X-Acto blade, and then one at a time peel up the mask, thus exposing the glass to the sandblast stream, such as you can notice on the beads or the pearls around the woman's neck. Each one is individually peeled and sandblasted in order to achieve this effect. The layering in her hair, each piece is pulled up one at a time, sandblasted, put back down to protect it from further blastings, and the whole piece it just takes a tremendous amount of time to do this kind of carved work. As you can see in this piece, we're not carving quite so deeply. As a matter of fact, it's very lightly carved at all, but it's still shadowed. We use a technique very similar to airbrushing, where we use the sand almost as a white paint on a black background, only we're using, of course, sand on clear glass. But we shadow the areas in order to get the three-dimensional effect, as opposed to deep carving that you see in the bas-relief piece. This piece of glass is beveled glass. Here we take quarter-inch glass, sometimes 3/8 inch thick glass. We cut each piece by hand to shape, and then by hand again we grind the edge to a 7-degree bevel, in this case a 1/2 inch bevel, and go through subsequent finer and finer wheels until we get to a pumice on cork wheel, and then finally a felt wheel for the final polish. So we're able to bring the rough cut glass all the way back to a high polish. Here we see an example of painted and fired glass, or true stained glass. Each piece of glass is painted with a special paint that contains metallic oxides and ground glass. It's fired in a kiln at about 1150 degrees, and it permanently fuses the paint to the surface of the glass. Examples of this glass are throughout the world, and the oldest examples are literally 1,000 years old. It represents really one of the highest forms of the glass stainer's art. This is obviously a portrait or a face of Christ that is in process right now for a religious window.
Have you ever had one of those days when things just did not go right? I mean, this is one of those days. I mean, my bird died yesterday, and my cat won't come back, and it's just terrible. What in the world? What is this music? What, Carl? What? Oh my! What? Oh, what in the world? What are y'all doing, guys? What? Oh my goodness! The lights are getting hot in here, guys. I don't know. Today has been a bad day, but this is. I did not expect this. Guys, I'm gonna get y'all for this. I think I'll let that stay with the professionals. I don't know what I'm doing if I'm not. Guys. Yes. People will have to pay for this one. Definitely, Oh, well, very good, very good. Y'all, Kay Cook from Belligrams. Nice to have you. Let's sit you down. Oh, I almost lost my turban here. We're gonna mic you up. Let's see.
Can I have my veil back?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Whoa, lost the turban there.
That's okay.
We'll have to take care of that.
You're gonna hook that to me?
Unless you want to do it.
No, you can do it.
Okay, very carefully, and I think we're. Okay, is that okay?
Yeah.
You fine? Let me. You want this back? Or?
No, it's all yours.
It's mine.
It's
well,
very becoming on you.
Okay. Well, it's okay. You're from Belligrams. Tell us a little bit about Belligrams. What's the history of Belligrams?
Well, I really don't know the history. I know it's been probably the longest running company. And
Sure.
excuse me. Am I in there?
Oh yeah, we're fine.
That does this sort of entertainment. We go out to, well, actually anywhere people want us to go within reason.
Within reason?
Yeah, all over
Is
town.
this reasonable?
Well, I'm not sure. The lights are pretty bright.
No.
Anyway, we go all over town to entertain people for their birthdays or whatever to cheer people up.
Well, I guess that applies here. How long have you been doing Belligrams?
Oh, probably about 3 years.
About 3
I've
years.
danced for a long time just as a hobby, but something like 3 years.
And so how did you get started? I mean, you said you danced before, but how did you get started with the Belligrams?
The lady I worked for saw me dancing at a restaurant, and she decided that I might be a likely candidate to do these, so it seemed like fun. And
Seemed like fun.
Yeah.
And, okay. Well, what kind of qualifications did she decide that you met to say that you'd be a likely candidate?
she had known me a long time through a mutual teacher,
Yeah.
so she knew me.
Well,
And
okay. Well, like, what as far as qualifications, what would I have to do in order to become a belly dancer? I mean, besides joining OptiFast. But
well, if you really wanted to do it, not many men do. Needless to say,
Well, this is just a hypothetical kind of.
take some lessons.
Just take some lessons.
Yeah, I started at Memphis State, as a matter of fact, through the continuing ed program.
They have a continuing ed program at Memphis State. You learn something new every day, folks.
Yeah.
Well, let's see. What other things does Belligrams, the service, the company, offer?
We're trying to expand, and I do singing telegrams too, and we also have some hula dancers that do Polynesian shows, and a gorilla.
A gorilla.
Yeah,
A gorilla.
balloons,
Gorilla-grams,
clowns.
Balloongrams.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, the whole gamut.
Well, okay. Well, what is probably the most unusual case or victim? I heard you say something about victims before.
That's what I call my poor men that are taken by surprise.
Like me, yes.
Yeah, like you.
What's been the most unusual one you've had?
Actually, every day is different. You know, I get calls to go all over town for whatever profession or occupation somebody may be working at. I've done one in a meat cooler, if you can imagine that, because I had to do one for a butcher. They spread butcher paper out for me to dance on, and it was pretty wild. And,
That sounds unusual.
Just, you name it, I've probably danced there.
Okay. Well, how much does it usually cost for someone to order a bellygram?
Inside Memphis, $40.
So the main cost is like travel.
Yes.
If it goes outside of Memphis.
Right, yeah.
$40 for a bellygram, and that's what you get. Okay. Well, what's the most popular of all the different things that you offer?
Probably Belligrams, because of course that's how we got started, and that's the name of the company. So right now that's the most popular thing.
All right. Well, what can you tell us about the history of belly dancing in general?
No, I'm not really an authority on that. I've just always liked it ever since I was a child. You know, watching the Arabian Nights on TV. And it's just very exotic and pretty. So I don't really know where it started. I assume the Middle East. It's a folk dance over there. So what, a couple of thousand years? I don't know. So it's popular here too, though, among certain people. You know, ethnic groups.
All right. Well, before we go, just give us one more move here before we leave.
Haven't you had enough?
I probably have, but I'm at the mercy of the director.
I don't know.
Just one more last. move. Oh my goodness. Okay. Oh my.
Is that okay?
This is more than I bargained for. Jay Cook from Belligrams. All right.
Thank you.
Excellent job.
Thank you.
And if you having trouble with your sweetheart or you want to raise from your boss, I suggest that this is the way to sweeten them up, or just order one for yourself. Yeah, it's,
Nobody's ever done
I don't
that.
think I would do that myself, but.
I'm attached to the wire.
Well, okay. Well, thank you very much for coming here.
Thank you.